Patrick Von Dolan, SD 25, prohibit abortion trafficking across state lines is just the first sentence. We support legislation prohibiting the trafficking of pregnant mothers and their unborn children taken across state lines for the purpose of an elective abortion.
Okay, so you moving adoption?
Move for adoption.
Do we have a second?
Stephen Callis, SD8, I'll second.
Thank you, Stephen. Discussion. Would you like to speak to your motion?
I would.
Patrick.
Background is summarized there. There has been a movement afoot in the city of San Antonio as of September 14, 2023, after CPS Energy amazingly discovered that they had a surplus of $20+ million. We're going to pay it to the city of San Antonio instead of scrambling to find ways to give it back to the residents and taxpayers of San Antonio. The progressive city council sought fit to spend it on various social welfare programs, and in this case, created a new line item in the budget for the 2024 budget to use $500,000 taxpayer money to traffic pregnant women outside of the state of Texas to procure an abortion. October 17th, a lawsuit was filed against the city of San Antonio over that, and that's currently in litigation. The other bullet point there is that former abortionist Alan Braid, who was from Corpus Christi, Texas, moved to San Antonio, had an abortion facility called Alamo Women's Reproductive Center, who was known for doing tens of thousands of abortions, chemical abortions every year here in San Antonio. He has moved since the Dobbs decision, right before the Dobbs decision, to New Mexico and to Illinois, opening up 2 other abortion facilities there. This is a direct quote from him of the effectiveness of sanctuary county and city for the unborn ordinances that's been passed across Texas, which have been included in my home county of Goliad County. It was the second county in the state of Texas to do it, but also most notably Amarillo and Lubbock. But in an interview with him on Texas Public Radio, he states that 85% of his business is being impacted by having ordinances that prevent the abortion trafficking through a city or county, respectively. And so I, again, move for adoption of this resolution.
Mr. Carr?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Patrick, would you entertain a friendly motion to substitute for the word prohibiting to state that we support legislation providing for civil and criminal penalties for the trafficking of?
I would entertain that if you said and prohibiting.
Before we get to that, I'm not going to make a sort of formal statement, but to me this seems more like a platform plank, and I think we have a lot of things in the platform around this issue, and it's a little duplicative. The delegates are going to be voting on the planks, so I'm not sure that this really meets the spirit. Hold on, John. That this really meets the spirit of a resolution per se. So.
I hear the chairman and would say that because of the way most people think that legally Texas is abortion free, but actually in reality it is not. Many things are happening in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
What happens in San Antonio, if it's successful, it will spread across the state of Texas. So that's why I felt it was important to be submitted as a resolution.
But we talked about that extensively in the Health and Human Services section. I see Melinda pulling the microphone over, so do you want to chip in here, Melinda, please?
Well, I just have a comment that we cannot hold women prisoners in the state of Texas. So, you know, if they desire an abortion, they're going to seek that out, and if it means traveling to a different state, they're going to do it. There are corporations that are paying for their employees to travel and get abortions. Dick's Sporting Good is one of those corporations. So I don't, you know, to be a woman-friendly party that we want to present ourselves, we can't turn around and then talk about holding them prisoner as well. So I would be opposed to this.
Carrie Cheshire, Senate District 10. I'm in support of Mr. Von Dolan's amendment. I think it's important to notice the word trafficking. So here we're specifically talking about organizations like the Lilith Fund, which are trafficking these individuals. We've talked in the other plank about how abortion harms women. I think trafficking pregnant mothers to obtain abortion harms women. And I think if the Democrats are going to go after Kyle Rittenhouse for crossing state lines, we can support protecting babies across state lines. Thank you.
Yep.
George Brian Vacris, SD 15. I see you have statement in here about San Antonio City approving money for this purpose, but there's no statement prohibiting the use of public funds for this purpose. I'm wondering if we can add something in to prohibit the use of public funds.
If I might, Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
to answer his question, this does not need to be limited to public funds, because the idea that corporations can pay for an employee or independent contractor or something to go away and have that abortion performed would fall under this prohibition, but not what he's suggesting.
Yep. Thank you, John. Any other discussion?
Tama Gunn, SD9. I agree with her. I think we're trying to gain the trust, and we want to extend love to mothers right now in our resolutions. And the first decade after Roe v. Wade, a lot of women were victims at that time that today are still terrified, and they're torn apart about what they did, because in those days it was just cells. We had no one teaching the women that they were life. No one was talking about it. It was a long time before the church even spoke up. And there's a lot of female victims that are traumatized, extremely traumatized. If we're going to reach out to them, I don't find this is an appropriate thing to tack on right after that. It is a very good platform issue, though. It is very good for our platform.
Thank you. Dennis?
Dennis London, SD2. I want to reiterate the fact that was pointed out earlier. I understand what the ladies are saying, but you have to read this as it states. We support legislation prohibiting the trafficking of pregnant mothers. Mr. Cheshire noted that earlier. We are only talking about the trafficking of pregnant mothers. We're not saying that they're going to be held hostage. We're not holding them here against their will. Mothers are allowed, or pregnant women are allowed, to actually travel on their own. We're just talking about the trafficking of those women.
Yeah.
Are you defining trafficking by providing funds to travel? Because trafficking implies they're being taken against their will across state lines for abortions.
So that's what
If you're just providing the means for them to travel, I don't consider that trafficking.
So the definition in the state of Texas of what trafficking is, trafficking is the means to transport, entice, recruit, harbor, provide, or otherwise obtain another person by any means. And a trafficking of a person means that you are trafficking another person with the intent that the trafficked person engages in forced labor or services, which is not, as I understand this to be, which has been my issue with this language the entire time. If we're going to talk about this, I agree that we should not be having anyone drive these women anywhere. However, they are going to go, and if we're trying to say, hey, we're wanting women to feel safe, we want them to, there's a step-by-step process in which you create safety so that you can get people to discontinue a particular behavior. And so this is what this is meaning. While it is well-intentioned, I do not think reflects what they're looking for. So I think we need to look at what the actual definition that Texas has determined as for this.
Okay, Carter?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Carter Thomas from SD 18. Let me just ask a question. If it were your daughter that was on drugs, and we took them, and someone was paying them to take them across lines to shoot up. Would that be, would it be loving to let that occur? We do have to take a stand at some point. We're not judging the woman. We are not judging what they're doing. What we're saying is, if you want to pay for it on your own, I mean, I would highly object. But if there's an organization and or a government that is providing funds for it, we need to make a stand, in my opinion.